We're back in 2024 with the Bardown podcast. We're humbled, by the way, as well.
Why?
Canada's lost.
Just gone.
Oh, yeah.
It's over.
Terrible.
That's okay.
It's okay.
We go and we put out a World Juniors quiz with the first question being like,
Which country has won the most gold medals?
we're so sick. Like, who's got the most golds?
Who's the best at hockey?
Who's the best? The best part about that happening, though, if there is like a silver lining, very selfishly, that's just an evergreen quiz now because we still have the same amount of golds. So
No one's going to pass us
no
this
one's
year.
gonna pass it. But Sweden, actually, they could change their fate. So because we made a lot of fun of them.
Yeah, about them
Second
choking.
place.
and-
I mean, to be
Yeah.
fair, when you win that many silvers, then that's what happens.
Silver's still good. It is like funny to like look at that as like, whoa, like never, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. But it's like being second place consistently in any sport, like
It's not a bad thing, but you want to be first one of these years.
Tell that guy in the Rochester Americans jersey that silver isn't good.
Yeah.
Try. Just try
his
and
favorite
I
color.
try and tell him
we
that.
need to find that guy.
Get him
I'd
on the
love to
podcast,
get
yeah.
him on the podcast.
Let's do it.
But anyways, we are back. As you can see, Jesse and Corwin, they're still firmly in Europe, in Sweden specifically. We're here. We'll talk like a little World Juniors at some point. Definitely talk some international hockey at some point, because obviously the World Cup of Hockey, or whatever they actually end up calling that, we got to discuss that a little bit, just a little bit.
Let's discuss.
We'll discuss.
We're into discussions of that.
And we'll consider.
I thought Anze Kopitar was going to fall on my head when I hit that. He's box office. But no, we're here to discuss some storylines that may have started emerging in 2023, maybe even a little earlier than that are just going to flat out continue into 2024 in the NHL. Like, let's check in on some teams, Like, we don't really have that many opportunities all the time, just like discuss certain teams. So which one of you wants to start us off? These are 7 storylines that will continue in 2024.
I'll get started and I'll start off with a team that in 2023, nobody was shy in our comment section to just grill us for, 1, probably not talking about them enough, 2, not giving them enough respect.
This could be so many teams.
It could be.
By the way,
And that's why I want to get you guys on your seat.
80% of the league,
Yeah.
maybe?
I want to talk about the Vancouver Canucks.
Oh, I'm happy you've done that.
Because we're sitting here, it's early 2024. A year ago at this time, how different was this organization? Bruce Boudreau was still the head coach.
Yep.
They had a very, very messy separation there, bringing in Rick Tocchet. Now we've seen a new head coach put his stamp on the organization. We've seen a new captain come in, not only change the culture there, but absolutely light the league on fire. Could very well be the Norris winner. Sorry, Luca. I know Kevin
No.
obviously he's
the
in that
front
conversation too. But
Forever in that conversation. Then.
Forever.
with this turnaround that they've experienced in the last 4 or 5 months and how good things have been, I still don't think they quite have the respect of the league. And I think a lot of people still think that maybe this is just a hot start and they don't have the legs to continue this for the whole season. If you look at the odds to win the cup, they're very, very low down there.
Yeah, they're not where their record is.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
So-
I have questions afterwards. I got questions.
My question with the Canucks is, what does the next 6 months look like? And can they continue this years on? Because I think a couple years ago, we've seen them have a season here and there where they've looked good and look like they've turned the corner, and then it's a step back. So I'm excited to see this team go into the playoffs, and I'm excited to see how they even go beyond that and approach the offseason, because they have a very, very good player who's a free agent, and he wasn't given the captaincy in Elias Pettersson.
Yeah.
So what does the next couple months look like for the Canucks? Are they going to be a team that goes into the playoffs in a very, very loaded conference and can make some noise?
Okay, so my first question, and I just like perpetually have been wondering this about the Canucks, isn't it okay to be like ahead of schedule and for everyone to be aware of that? Because like, I know what you're saying. Power ranking wise, when you're not getting ranked where you are, where like entering the new year, they literally had the most points in the NHL. I had some guy berating me, by the way, on Instagram because I was like, I did Sports Center, and like, I think he was just like, why'd you say they had 47 points going in? They had 49, buddy. And I was like, because that's the start of the highlight pack. And then when it ends is when they get rewarded the other 2 points. So,
Wow.
But anyway, sorry, you don't know how story works.
That's maybe my favorite favorite DM exchange I've
Wasn't
ever
even DM. This guy went main page on like a post from like months ago. I was like, leave me alone, dude. Just want to go home. It's 3 a.m. Anyways. Just like,
I love how that came out of me saying, like, I'm excited to watch the Canucks in 2020.
I got to say. I got stuff to
like,
say.
He's been holding this gripe
I've been
for a
holding it
long
too
time.
close. No, but like honestly, in all due respect, because like I mean this, I do mean this in a positive way. Isn't it fine? You think? And I'm asking Canucks fans this, you know, because like it's directly to you, direct to camera. Isn't that fine if people kind of are like, when I'm thinking power rankings and teams I think will genuinely lift the Stanley Cup, maybe you're not the top 4 teams I'm thinking of still, because I'm thinking of that grind of the NHL playoffs and teams that maybe aren't exactly where they should be or are still close and doing very well and will do even better in the playoffs with their experience. And isn't it fine to just be ahead of schedule where it's like, man, people thought you were in Nowheresville potentially to start the year where not only would you miss the playoffs, but it was like, what's happening? Like moving forward, like what are the positives to really hang your hat on? And now you're like, no, like you have a solid core like JT Miller. People can stop, looking at that deal ultra harshly. And now you have like a captain and like a clear leader and one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Isn't that all fine too? You know what I mean? You're still giving your respect in the standings, literally, because you have your points. You'll make the playoffs. We'll see what you do. Wait and find out. People who get crowned in the regular season do not always obviously do well in the postseason. So should you even want that anyways? No, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think if you look at going forward and how their roster is constructed, at every key checkpoint, like right now they're checking the box. They have a head coach that the players are clearly buying into. They got a franchise goalie, a franchise defenseman. They got some elite scorers, and they're all young.
Yeah.
So they're in no rush where it's like, oh, we're overachieving this year and we have to win now and no one's respecting us, because the way they're playing and the trajectory that they're going on, like they're going to be here for a very long time.
Yeah, like they'll be a good team. Like that part is what we all have to eat something on to some degree. Although I have to go back and watch our first video on of the year because I feel like we weren't super harsh. We were dismissive.
Yeah,
sure.
it was very
dismissive.
But I think it was more like we
Canucks.
moved on. We moved on.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, cool.
The interesting part about this all, though, is like you said, isn't it good to just be in this early stage before you get crowned, kind of thing? But now,
The funnest part.
It is the funnest part. But now the tough questions or concerns going forward is like the trade deadline's coming up.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Yeah, like how in are you?
Exactly.
Like, are you treating yourself like a contender,
Exactly.
or are you still like, I'm still building?
That's
I think
always
you
the
gotta
best
go all
part
in.
of the trade.
What would you guys do?
All in.
You're all in already.
I'd go all in.
That's
You're
fair. 'Cause
having a
you never
special
know
season.
when you're good. That's also
You never
a fair
know.
point,
It's
yeah.
true. It's true. There's also not really a guy that
Yeah.
can go all in. Like Lindholm is the guy, and it's just like
It's not that-
how
Is,
much
that's
Cal-
not
is
that-
Calgary going to trade another good player to
well, they might
Vancouver?
have to. Like, and it's Hannafin and it's Lindholm, and it's just. But it's like, how much does that move the needle for Vancouver?
I don't think
Elias
there's
Lindholm doesn't
anyone
really
who's
do
going to
it.
like fully move the needle, but
Can help
there
the
are definitely
squad.
players that can like.
Oh, for
you
sure.
add a guy to your second line, maybe third line, and now it's just like the rest of your team just gets so much better.
It's the moves champions make.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah, it's never just
go
like
out and
the
get
big
Sean
swings.
Monahan.
Go and
Give the Habs a first round pick.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I know you guys
get
are
too
loving
crazy.
Sean Monahan in Montreal. Like I feel like Habs
yeah.
fans love him. Like,
He's a good
like,
player.
Or how he's been like even off the ice.
Former
but,
Flame.
But
you
you
go.
definitely got to get rid of that guy probably while
Probably.
his value's at its highest, which is so harsh. Hey, you've been a great guy for our team in city. Get the hell out of here. Your value's way too good.
And like his value now compared to where it was
When they got him.
a few years ago.
They
it's
literally
crazy.
Calgary had to pay Montreal to offload
Yeah.
him. Yeah, so
Yeah. Luca, would you like to go next?
Yeah,
What's another storyline that will continue in 2024?
I think it's the wild card race in the East, specifically the Metro. It's nuts. Every team
Quite literally, that will continue.
quite literally it will continue, but just my interest in it, and I think everyone's interest in it as now we get to the second half of the season, it should continue because it's definitely the best playoff race we're going to have, and feels like it's maybe the best playoff race we've had in a while. I feel like at this point in the year, every year we're kind of just like, oh, we know the top 3 teams are in every division, like lock them up, and then the wild card races, who knows? But this year, like even the division races are kind of close still, maybe minus the Rangers being like pretty far out in front of the Metro. But then Carolina's in second right now. Pittsburgh's in seventh. 6 points separate them. Columbus is the only team in that division without a winning percentage, points percentage above 500. That the margin for error is so slim, and how that could also change the trade deadline, change the fortunes of these teams going forward. Pittsburgh being one of them, where it's like they've spent so much money and resources with Dubas in his first year trying to go all in. So it's like they need to continue doing that, but they could miss the playoffs. Like they're seventh in the division at 40 points.
Metro's so weird,
it's
right?
crazy,
Like, who
man.
would have predicted Islanders, Flyers being above Devils and Penguins?
Yeah.
at the
It's
start of the year?
nuts. And then to predict the Flyers even just having this good of a season, the Capitals being as good as they are, I was definitely one of the people that wrote them off.
Yeah.
Just like, they've got a bunch of old players that haven't really stayed healthy, and they
In the
don't have a lot
hunt,
of young guys.
In the hunt with Ovi having one of his worst,
that
having
too.
his
That's
worst
the
year.
biggest
His
surprise
worst-
part is
like-
how they're getting it done.
Yeah.
It's
and it's
nuts.
like Charlie Lindgren's save percentage is like carrying this team
Well,
forward.
and that in
like-
itself is nuts because they paid Darcy Kemper a ton
Yeah,
of money,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
also like
goal-
revisionist history on that free agency class of goalies, where it was like, don't pay the goalies, and then them in Edmonton paid the goalies, and they're not doing
Oh,
it.
no, I got goalies next.
Oh, you got goalies
Yeah,
next.
goalies
Okay,
next.
okay. But yeah, so this race is just going to be so fascinating because then it also affects so many different things. Like the Flyers, are you going to go all in at the trade deadline to lock up one of these spots? They're one of those teams that's definitely ahead of schedule.
They gotta keep on the schedule.
I agree.
Keep on your schedule.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. But it makes that deadline time a little more enticing because I really don't know what some of these teams are going to do and how they evaluate themselves. Like if you're Washington, they've been a team that's been known to make moves. Do you make it like they traded for Sandin last year and gave up a draft pick? Their draft history is horrible, but you're right around the playoffs right now in the race.
you got a
And
closing window too.
You gotta. That's the biggest thing is them and Pittsburgh have closing windows. The Islanders feels like they have a closing window, kind of,
because they've locked
because
themselves.
they've
in their
locked
core.
themselves up a lot. So it's just like, it's really fun.
I might walk it back a little on that Flyers, like, ooh, stay the course. Only from like a Sabres standpoint, where now, this is probably what I'm saying a little bit also with the Canucks thing of like, sometimes maybe you do got to strike when you think you're still building. Because now it's a revisionist history for sure, but everyone's like, Kevin Adams, man, you've been sitting on your hands quite a bit, like during some of these trade deadlines when your team was like maybe in need of a little bit of a boost, especially whether it be during the trade deadline or during free agency in the summer, and now like a lack of moves there has them where it's like, okay, you had a strategy for what you're building and you have a great young core, but you haven't done the small stuff perhaps to make sure that they've been elevated to that next level. So probably is just so deal dependent. Maybe do something, yeah. If you're Flyers, it'll make sense.
Who do you think gets in? Like
Or in the Metro?
in the Metro, because even second and third in the division, like I think Carolina probably finishes second. Like they're heating up right now. They've won
I think
4 in a
the
row.
Devils take the third spot.
You think the Devils?
Yeah.
I love
I
the
think
Devils.
We're all waiting for the Devils to pick it up, and we're all kind of waiting for the Flyers
I think
and the
they get wild
Capitals
card.
to kind of
You think the
regress.
Flyers
I
get
think-
a wild card
But
spot?
yeah, they've been so impressive,
so good.
consistent. Like
Let me take a quick look.
Do the
Before I
Islanders
confirm my idiocy.
Do the Islanders drop off? Do the Lightning miss the playoffs finally for the first time in a while?
Like I genuinely, I think the Flyers get it because we'll see what happens with Tampa. Like I think they might just rise in the Atlantic, and maybe it'll be the Leafs who gets bumped down into this wild card battle. But like one of those two teams, let's just say, has one of the wild card spots locked. Everyone else, Capitals, Penguins, Red Wings, like nah. Like yeah, Islanders. I think the Flyers could be better than those teams.
I think
to
so
end the
too.
year.
But it's crazy that we're still having this conversation of like, man, the Penguins and the Caps are just hanging around, and they're right there still.
Okay, well, moving on to the next storyline that will continue into next year. I think teams taking more care in their crease decisions is going to happen.
Ooh, interesting.
Because I'm not saying that like they don't care about their crease, but it does feel very flippant to some degree how certain teams have handled their crease situations. Now, the Devils, the Leafs, the Oilers, Canes all started the year as contenders, right? Like clear contenders. All 4 of them have starting goalies that are in the bottom in the entire league in goals saved above expected. They've had terrible performances. The Devils, they have no answer there. Just both goalies striking out, whether it's Vanacek or Schmid, just hasn't worked at all. And look where they are right now in the standings is, I know that's not their only problem, but that's a massive part of that. But it's not even like just the contenders either. And Oilers clearly don't need to go further on their goaltending woes. Canes, though, that just hasn't worked out. But maybe Freddie Anderson will.
I was going to say, injuries maybe for the Canes.
Not
the
as fair,
Leafs
exactly.
specifically, because, like, Woll was looking good for the Leafs, and then he got hurt, unfortunately.
I don't know, still. Because, like, banking on a
rookie is
is still, like...
Absolutely.
That's
There's
not
still...
paying attention to your crease, in my mind. But it's not just the top teams I'm talking about. It's the Red Wings, the Senators, and the Sabres, where it's like those are 3 teams that were looking to have a better year this year, also derailed by their goaltending situations. And it's the Sabres one feels like a little bit unfair, except not, because it's a little bit similar to the Leafs one, where they kind of just put a lot of faith in a young goalie. And instead of it being like health issues necessarily, it was like a workload issue. Nuts. Not settled enough where it's like you knew who your goalies were, and it cost you. Red Wings, same exact situation. And then the Senators. When's the last time you even remember them having a goalie that's just like stayed there and like been their guy? Craig Anderson.
Yeah. Every single year, like they just try and find a new guy, and then the guy that they move off of goes to another team and just dominates.
I was just going to say, the ironic part is Cam Talbot is like one of the best goalies in the league this year, which also just proves how random it is and how different environments sometimes help. But at the same time, like, Ottawa seems to be the problem, not the goalies.
Yeah. And I guess this is what makes this whole conversation hard, because it's not like some of these teams haven't tried. Like, the Oilers threw money at a goalie. It was just nuts who they decided to do that with.
We all knew it was a risk.
I don't know what the change in strategy should be.
I wonder if it is the tandem. Like, if that is...
You think so?
Is the thing.
An experienced tandem, or like give me an example other than like the Bruins
That's
tandem
the
that
problem,
like,
is
really
I just,
impresses you.
I can't think of a tandem that is that, and it's such a unique situation with the Bruins too, of having like Allmark was an afterthought. Like, he was in Buffalo, he wasn't viewed as a number 1 guy, and then Swayman, I think there were high hopes for him, but he's one of the best goalies in the league now. And I think the workload thing might be a real thing. Like when I'm looking at the Avs right now, like Georgiev leads the league in wins with 20. He also has a save percentage under 900. And it's just like, you have no one else to spell this guy.
Sweating it every night.
He's just sweating it every single night. Like, their team defense is solid, but he is just getting peppered every game because he is in every game and they don't have a backup. And so I don't know if the solution is like, get yourself a veteran guy. Like, I liked Craig Anderson in Buffalo because not only that he could come in, like he's played enough years that he can play hockey, obviously, but like that voice in a goaltender's ear, especially a young one when they're struggling like this, like, who does Joseph Woll have to turn to in Toronto if he struggles? Like Ilya Samsonov, who is struggling himself? No, like, but if Woll comes back, I think Martin Jones is like the perfect guy to kind of have there.
Feels like the position where teams seemingly are most willing to take a risk. Where it's like, we'll see what happens.
It almost reminds me of like the running back position in football, to be honest with you, where it's like
people usually compare it to
tandems.
Quarterback.
I would say it's running back just because it's like it's tandems and it feels like they don't get paid. Like the top guys don't really get paid a ton of money,
and they don't want to get, and the people don't want to pay them.
People don't want to pay them.
Yeah.
It's the one position that they touch the ball a lot. Goalies obviously are the last line of defense, and people are just willing to be like, let's throw this guy in. Our team defense will be the thing that stabilizes them.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like a running back. It's like, put him in our system. If you can catch, you can run. Like, our offensive line is good. It's not really about the back. It's more about the system on offense.
And keep the miles off them so that they're fresh
Exactly.
and they last longer. And I think the perfect example of this is like, look how the Vegas Golden Knights won the Cup last year.
Yeah.
How they're doing it again this year.
Yeah,
Like,
Aiden Hill was, you talked about Allmark being an afterthought. He's the afterthought of all afterthoughts, Aiden Hill, and he's come in. He's been the best.
Yeah.
He could argue he's the best goalie in the NHL right now, and he was amazing down the stretch. Sorry about that. Amazing down the stretch.
Just don't do it again.
Can't make the same mistake twice.
Just don't do that twice.
I won't. But yeah, Aiden Hill has just been phenomenal, and it's like you said, it's hard to pinpoint what the solution is. Is it luck? Is it, having a great structure and playing together as a team, or is it sometimes just goalies, taking the right opportunity and just getting hot?
That's the most time we'll ever talk about goalies, probably.
Well, Corbin
Thank God Corbin wasn't here.
Corbin here, that chat was 20
Blown
seconds.
up that
He's like, yeah,
conversation.
cool. Jake Ottinger's numbers. Why don't we look those up? And I would have been like, don't look it up yet. We got time. Thomas or Luca, I forget.
Go for it.
All right. It's very early in 2024, obviously, and I think what's been great about this year so far is the other competitions of hockey that we've been able to watch, not just the NHL. We've seen the PWHL have this great start, and obviously the World Juniors are going on right now. And with viewing these different leagues or competitions come different rules. And I think the conversation around the NHL changing some rules has been around for so long, and I think that's going to continue in 2024, and I'm very excited to see where things go because there's certain rules in the PWHL that I love, like scoring a shorthanded goal eliminates the power play.
I love that
like,
one.
That
it
is
doesn't
awesome.
happen often enough where it's like this thing that is just going to change the game forever, but it rewards you for scoring a shorthanded goal with something else. Maybe you see McDavid play more penalty kill time because you strategize around things like that.
That guy needs more ice time.
Needs more of it. But, I mean,
I know.
hey,
It would make it more exciting for sure.
And then in the
This is going to fall on my head. I'm tempted.
Bonze's taking you out,
I'm sorry,
buddy.
your box office.
just don't do that again.
You've made the same mistake twice.
World Juniors. We have the point system that I think maybe might just get over to the NHL one day, and that's 3 points for a win, 2 points for an overtime win.
Leafs fans hate you now.
Yeah, and that is very interesting to me because you got teams like the New York Islanders with like 10 overtime losses, and then you got teams like the Leafs and like the Habs
Shootout wins and
don't
whatnot.
win, and then you mentioned shootout, and that's another rule that I would love to be looked at. One of the biggest draws to me is 3-on-3 overtime, and when it ends, it's like, shootout can be interesting, but I want to watch best on best in 3-on-3. I want to watch 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s and McDavid on and Bedard on. And World Juniors, we have these like 10-minute overtime periods. I'm looking at all these different rules in other leagues and saying like, are these going to come to the NHL? Because they always seem to be talked about.
Man, I remember when I think I was talking about this because it was a Habs game. There was some shootout. It was with the Penguins.
Yeah, it was like 15.
It was a crazy round.
rounds.
And the NHL YouTube page was like, crazy shootout. You gotta see it. And I was like, okay. Like, got my breakfast ready and like turned it on. I was like,
You've
but
never
I
been more
watched
disappointed.
all 10 plus minutes. I'm like, this thing sucks.
He comes in. Missed the net.
That is terrible.
I'm like, there were so many misses.
People sucking at breakaways.
Someone missed the net. Like,
It was fourth liners.
That's my job, man. Like,
It was just fourth liners going in all alone and being like, I've never gotten to do this in my life.
Yeah, I'm getting
and
spicy
just like,
with it.
Wrist shot right
I'm
in the
getting
goalie's chest.
oh, that's
At that
why I don't
point,
do
you
this.
can't reuse players like internationally,
Yeah,
so the coach is just like, let's throw someone out here. Like, maybe this guy's got something on his
If
stick.
there's more than 5 rounds of a shootout, you should be able to
Disaster.
reset. It's
Make
just
it a 2-on-0.
No, shootout.
Make it a 2-on-0 after 3 rounds.
I like how we're like, we gotta help goalies. The workload's getting too nuts. 2-on-0s,
Hamstring,
boys.
groin, done.
That's what you
Deal
get
with it.
for not scoring in
with it.
3 rounds,
Yeah.
okay? You get the 2-on-0.
I like it in yours, but your NHL, the injuries are skyrocketing. But anyways, Luca, on to you. I think we're on the 5th thing at this
Fifth
point.
thing, number 5. Okay, so I love defensemen. I love watching defensemen, obviously. Great crop of offensive defensemen in the league, and I think I'm going to be watching the race to 100 points between Makar and Hughes. But not only that, if both of them get there, it's the first time in NHL history that 2 defensemen will have 100 points in the same season. So that's really significant, and
We getting a Hart Trophy out of this, you think, or what?
I don't know. I think in this year where McDavid has kind of had a down year, I normally would say yes. But I think if 2 defensemen do it, it hurts their chances, to be honest.
true.
Because if it was only Quinn Hughes doing it or only Cale doing it, again, I don't know if it would be Hart Trophy worthy. I think it definitely would get them a lot of votes because they're better than Erik Karlsson, I think, defensively, and they impact the game a lot more than he does.
Kucherov's been crazy. Too.
Kucherov's been
their,
crazy.
Their numbers
Dude.
when he's not on the ice, like
Man.
a 5-on-5, it's literally like
He's
there's no
carrying
one on
that
the
team.
ice.
Carrying that team to the, but also Nathan McKinnon. Nathan McKinnon has
Yeah.
been absolutely bonkers this season. He might have 140 points by the time it's over. Kucherov might too. So it's like, I don't know if I'd say Hart if both of them do it, but it just kind of makes the Norris race even more exciting because they've been battling for point races, plus minus races. Their teams are both doing really well. They're both kind of playing a ton of minutes. Makar plays more shorthanded time than Hughes does.
So there could be some split votes in there that could help with his heart situation, because if there's no clear front runner, like that probably does help some of these guys' cases. If randomly there's just like, I don't know, they go on a run to end the year and like votes are just split all over the place in between.
Yeah.
Like, Panarin's gonna get some New York East Coast votes.
He'll get.
They'll be like,
oh yeah,
come on, that's our MVP.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Rangers won the President's Trophy, so
could be.
just saying.
Could be.
Saying. Moving on. I wish my next note was a positive note.
Oh, no.
But it's one that had to come up eventually. The Sabres will have an 8.5% chance of drafting Macklin Celebrini because I genuinely think they're the 5th worst team in the NHL. I think they'll probably hover around that and eventually settle there. Just watching them not be able to win 2 games in a row, like legitimately, I don't think they've done that once since, October, November, whatever it is. And like, you just know. When you watch the game, you're just like, they just can't string 2 performances together. They've currently played 3 more games than the Capitals, and they are 8 points behind them.
They're done.
It's like, it's already pretty much cooked.
They're done.
Because of how they play, too.
There's always the 2019 St. Louis Blues. That could, you can get on that arc.
It's cool that outliers exist, but like just using your eyes, it's too bad they didn't make more moves in the offseason to kind of help their young core, and especially in net. But more than anything, like just like scoring depth, especially because they knew they were going to be missing Jack Quinn, and like that just hurt them.
Yeah.
To not have him to start the year. And I'm not the calling for coaches' heads kind of guy at all whatsoever. But like you obviously have to assess that situation. It's possible where when the situation changes, it might call for a new voice, and that's kind of it. And they went out and they've proven like they like their coach. Like it's not like they're not playing for him, but it's tough, right? Like the situation's clearly just not working, and they went in being. We were like, lock them in. Playoff spot, wild card, something like they should get that.
I was super high on the Sabres this year.
Flailing well below that. And you can't keep losing because, like,
No.
you can't have players just in a system where it's like all they know is losing.
So fascinating, too, now the race for Celebrini, because there are some good teams that can get him, like Ottawa. Right in the mix. Like, I know they have some games in hand, but
They've been doing a little bit better.
Which is
Doing a
also
little bit
crazy,
better,
though,
but-
considering like they
Oh, yeah.
were in that same group as the Sabres going into the season,
Yep.
where it's like Atlantic team ready to take a jump.
Yep.
Hasn't happened.
Yeah. So, like legit, like listening to the bottom 5 teams here. Sharks, worst.
Yeah.
Blackhawks, second worst. Those guys just locked it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is where you could debate where and what, but the Ducks currently are there at the time of this recording. Then it goes Senators, Blue Jackets, Sabres. I think the Senators, again, they've played them now directly and keep beating them. Senators, better than the Sabres.
Yeah.
Currently, the Blue Jackets, no. I think they're probably,
I think they're worse than the Sabres.
they're worse than the Sabres.
Yeah.
But that makes a 4th and 5th team right there. I think they make the bottom 5 there. Sharks, Blackhawks, Ducks, Sabres, Jackets.
And it's so funny because 4 of those 6 teams, like I'd say the Blue Jackets, the Ducks, the Sabres, and Senators for sure, teams were going into the
Step
year,
forward.
you needed a step forward,
Yeah.
and they're right back down.
Like the Habs are not in that discussion, like which is crazy.
It's
Winning
nuts.
culture. Winning culture.
What did you say?
Got 24 Stanley Cups. Got a first overall pick
When
that
was
looks like a
when was the
budding
last
star.
one again? Or
30 years ago. 31 now. But we got a...
guy literally didn't even see it. Guy literally didn't even see it. There's still hope though when you have that much talent on your team, but a change clearly has to happen. And we're on to Don't Think, Just Tweet. Got some spicy ones in here because a lot has happened. In case you're new to the show and are unfamiliar with this segment, this is just where I'm going to give a little bit of a prompt, and these guys are going to give a quick thought or a quick tweet on it. With the news, then 2025, the NHL will have a best on best tournament. I want you guys both, in this case I know it's usually just one, both of you, to give me a surprising inclusion and a surprising snub from Canada and the USA. Luca, you can start because your phone's already out.
Surprise, surprise. Quinton Byfield is on Team Canada in 2025. I love his game. I love
Yelling down the
everything
first
about
line.
him. Yeah, he's been awesome. And I feel like Team Canada in these international tournaments, you just take those players sometimes that they might not necessarily put up as many points or whatever, but they just play a role really well. I think he's an incredible forechecker. He just is so fast and physical.
Big
and like,
dude, man.
Big dude and super skilled too.
Yep,
Like he's
yep.
not just a guy that is going to grind along the boards. Like he's super skilled and it's amazing to see him coming in his own. So Quinton Byfield is my surprise. Snub. I don't know if it's a snub in come 2025, but Brad Marchand. He is not having a good year this year. Like, where we think of Brad Marchand and its point production, whatever, he's getting
Weird. He
older.
feels like one of those ones where it's like I'm gonna guess because Luca's a very analytics heavy guy.
The
I'm
legacy player.
gonna assume that the analytics are not there for him because the eye test still says
point
for people that
totals
he's
aren't really there
point total
either.
either. I don't mean like standard counting stats.
Yeah.
But like he's still so important to that team. Is all I mean.
No, he is for sure. But I just think in a couple more years when they do this best on best, like I don't know where he slots into this lineup, and I'm like, if you're not playing him in the top 6,
Okay, well, how about your American team?
Team USA. Okay, first of all, hashtag Team USA is stacked and they're unreal.
I never would have found the tweet if you didn't put that hashtag.
You're right. My snub might be. Oh, it's so tough.
Did he just change his mind?
My snub.
I said don't think.
Yeah.
Just
tweet it. Tweet it.
send.
Press the tweet button.
My snub is Thatcher Demko. Wow. The goaltending crease for USA
fans
is
are
insane.
This guy just put up an all-time Canucks argument so that they got off our back. Luca's like, get back on it.
You also like beefed that fan.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Tell me who you're not putting in the crease
No,
for
I
America.
get it.
Jeremy Swayman, Connor Hellebuck, Jake Onger, Thatcher Demko.
Yeah, it's stacked.
Give me the other 3 because I feel like I have a more proven track record. My mind can change. It's not 2025.
Fate of the universe, death ray point at Earth. I want Otten.
I want
Onger.
Clayton Keller.
Yeah, he's on your list.
They are loaded up front. Like I didn't put Tage Thompson on because I have Clayton Keller in front of him.
Giraffe. No good, eh?
No, you gotta have Tage.
I don't have Tage.
No
man.
giraffe's crazy.
Who do you take off?
Toys R
Matthews,
Us.
JT Miller, both Kachucks, Jack Hughes, Gensel, Eichel, Besser, DeBrincat, Jason Robertson, Kyle Connor. Like who are you taking off that list?
The name I was going to say would get us in Canucks heat, so I'll leave
JT
Miller.
Miller?
Love you, Canucks. Probably is.
I'm happy I'm not the GM of either team because I would hate to be like Tage Thompson, man. You weren't good enough to make this team because he is unbelievable.
Do you even have to make the call? Is that how that works?
You definitely have to make the call. You got to tell them that they didn't
they
make the
didn't?
team.
Yeah, tell them that
You?
they didn't.
Yeah,
Just-
I wouldn't want to make the calls. That seems like a depressing part of the job.
They probably are, they got a certain person. We talk about role players. There's a role player in your organization for
sure.
the bad call.
For sure. You got to
Hey, brother. No, we're doing good, buddy. I appreciate that. It'll be a quick one. But, we appreciate the effort, but nope.
I don't know if you're
wouldn't
going
be
to be
me.
the guy that they use.
Yeah, it wouldn't be me.
to call people.
It definitely wouldn't be. My call would have been like, hey, man, like, we're trying to win.
JT Miller, we're trying to win, actually, so get your ass out of here.
No. The polar side of me wouldn't be good at that because I'd be like, come on, like let's be real. Like you're not
thought you
picking
were
him
making
either. You're not taking him. You're me. You're taking him. Thank you. We can end this call. I'm really sorry about that, but like,
I love turning the tables up.
Yeah, turn it.
Who are you better
Make the
than?
call.
If
Yeah.
you can
You tell me who you're better
two
than.
players you're better
Yeah,
than, I
yeah.
will put you on the team.
put him on the list. Yeah, make the call.
All right, who are your snubs? And
All right, I do want to echo your feeling that this was incredibly tough, but in the
And enough. I'll be that
it's
guy.
hard.
now.
It's
This is a
hard.
fake
There's so many
list.
good players.
It's a fake list.
We
You're not
started-
making any calls.
Are we starting with Canada?
Yeah. You can start with Canada.
Is Evan Bouchard a snub? I want to ask that because he's like third amongst all Canadian defensemen in points this year.
that is a snub?
I have him on mine.
Okay,
That's a snub.
Then I am snubbing Evan Bouchard. I just
Four?
think if you look at all the talent on the blue line.
Give me the names.
I got Cale Makar, Alex Pietrangelo, Josh Morrissey, Devin Taves, Shea Theodore, and then the one that I'm going to say is my surprise that gets into the team is Owen Power. I think Owen Power will be on this Canada team.
That is a surprise. I'm being totally honest.
I would take Owen Power over Evan Bouchard.
I'm not saying that he's not trending to be a great defenseman. Like he's taken number 1 overall, but from watching him this year, because this is 2025. 2024 has got to be real electric to be beating Evan Bouchard, I think, with what
To
he's
make the
proven
case,
so
though.
far. Also, because it's another guy projecting forward and a guy who's going to keep playing with Connor McDavid. I don't know if I see that. I mean, it'd be great if it happened, because then the Sabres would be even better. But I don't know.
What makes Evan Bouchard to me so valuable is his contribution on the power play.
Yeah.
And he's a great
He's good off.
chance creator. He's very offensive.
Yeah.
And when you're making this team and you already have a guy like Cale Makar that will run
a
this
good
power
point,
play
too.
with 4 forwards, and you can leave him on there for the full 2 minutes,
Yeah.
it's like, what is
That
he
role
bringing
gets
to the
diminished.
table
Yeah.
if he's not locking down, and you're talking about best on best. You're out there and you're facing Austin Matthews, Brady Tkachuk, and Clayton Keller. So you really got to bring your defensive game.
He really snuck it in there. Yeah.
You really got to bring your defensive game. And I just think that there are better players. It doesn't have to be Owen Power. That was just an honorable mention.
It's not that he's that interested in Owen Power. It's that he's just that disinterested in Evan Bouchard. Thank you for offending both players.
You need a defenseman that can play a different type of
Thomas
role.
also not on the calls.
Who are your snub surprise for USA?
Team USA is tough. I looked at the forward group, and there's players like Dylan Larkin and Cole Caulfield that I don't think that they can make it. So I'm gonna go. If I have to pick one, I'll say Dylan Larkin because he's probably ahead of Caulfield in terms of the depth chart. And an honorable mention. I'm really caught between two young defensemen. That's Keandre Miller and Brock Faber in Minnesota, who's having a really, really good season.
Love Faber.
And he's so young, and he can kind of do it all. And I think I'm going to go Brock Faber in that space.
Okay. The next one. What did you think of the fish intro at the Winter Classic? The toss and the salmon? Because some people were very
Like
upset.
tossing them across?
Yeah, you saw that, right?
Yeah.
Looked like a looked like a musical.
Why were people
It's
upset?
like an animal.
They're like, look how mad the players look. It's ridiculous.
Here's the tweet. Those people that are mad are the
corny.
reason why hockey doesn't grow and become more popular.
I don't know about that either, but to be fair.
No,
like,
I know about that.
Hey, toss that salmon, grow the game.
Grow the game.
I don't know,
There are
that
some
might be a little
salmon lovers that are now hockey fans because of it, okay?
Is that like if you like designate yourself as a human, like I'm a salmon lover. Personally, I'm a salmon lover.
salmon.
I don't think we're gonna have that much in common. I do love salmon as well. Not my defining.
I think
quality.
anyone that's mad about that should find something else to be mad about. That's
probably more fair.
ridiculous.
I
Oh
thought
my
it was
God.
funny.
It's
all.
really cool.
That was funny. Like, is it in a gimmick? Absolutely.
Of course, the whole game is a gimmick. You can't
man.
see the ice from any seat in the damn building.
Have you guys
Pair
ever
of
been
seats.
to an outdoor game?
I would
Terrible
never
seats.
waste any amount
I went
of
to
money.
an outdoor game.
No, I'd go.
It was a cool experience.
I wouldn't.
It was minus
If I go for free.
25.
Where were you?
Ottawa, Montreal, Heritage
God.
Classic 20.
Where did they play
2017,
that one?
20 in Ottawa.
This guy's been a lot of the good games.
Football stadium?
Yeah, where the Red Blacks play.
Yeah. If you take the Winter Classic seriously, you need to find a new hobby.
Did you guys know they played outside in Vegas in the Gretzky Kings era?
No,
No.
The
know
NHL
that.
put that on their YouTube page.
that's pretty cool.
And those guys did not look like they trusted the ice.
Oh, that
Gretzky
makes sense.
looked nervous.
I would too.
And the blue line before the game, they had to fix it because obviously like it's supposed to be paint. You know what they used? Like a carpet, and it was coming undone. So it was like you were about to look like the Canucks anthem singer. Whoop! Like if you hit it, because it was just like coming up because there wasn't enough ice. So dangerous.
That is nuts.
And it was just like a preseason. Rangers.
Oh, that seems worth it.
And they made
in Vegas. Like that just
They
that.
made Gretzky play.
Yeah. Anyways, the last one. This Cole Perfetti stuff. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Where Ryan Hartman.
talking about yesterday.
It was just like, yeah, I did that on purpose.
What's
Admitted
wrong with you?
to high sticking while in front of a mic'd player. He admitted that he high sticked him as retribution for a Kaprizov cross-check. Thoughts?
Wild.
What the is wrong with you? That is my tweet.
Wild tweet. That's out there.
Sorry.
I support the sentiment of he had nothing to do with it.
I think it makes it even weirder that he warned him hey, listen, I'm going to do this thing to you right now that you're really not going to like, but I have to.
But we got to land on something lighter than that. So we got to bring up this comment. Thomas actually brought it up. We did a video on the team of the year for EA, and Thomas was just talking up Slavkovsky's stock this year, which is great. Like we want to see him do well. Bardown Brendan said Slavkovsky's a lock for team of the last 10 games for sure.
But he is, though. That's the
He
best
is.
part. Another impact performance last night. Yeah. 1 assist. Some great back checking. This guy, what he's doing, I'll say this. What he's doing right now is not being quantified, but he's making an impact on games. And there's no other way for someone to believe me.
All
than
this
just
guy
go
does
and
as a
watch.
sports fan.
That's
It's
not a bad
You can't
thing.
quantify his team. This guy's a Kai Havertz apologist.
Not a bad thing that you can't quantify the impact he has.
If
That's
you're
just
winning
that-
games,
that's not a bad thing. You're saying? I disagree.
He's
I think
19.
that's
He's
actually
19 years
very
old.
bad if you can't quantify someone's
no.
impact on a
Okay.
team.
No, I mean, like, if there's, it's not a counting stat necessarily.
That's not
but-
what you said. You said quantify.
Yeah, you can't quantify.
I don't know what it is you do, but you know what? I love it.
To some degree, you can quantify it because his points have seen an uptick in the last 10 games. That's why he's in the team of the last 10.
Yeah. As we said, Jesse and Corwin, they're in Sweden, but we brought them here
Oh, wow.
via video.
Where are they?
We have the technology.
What up, squad?
Yeah,
What's going on?
what's going on? Thanks for having us on the pod. Wow.
All the way from Gothenburg.
Yeah.
Just want to say, too, I know we discussed this. I'll say personally, I know, Corin, you have similar feelings, I think. Absolutely one of the best cities I've ever been to in my life.
Yeah, it's incredible place. Got to shout out our guy, Simon, Andre Burakovsky's agent. But I think, so we're going to hit on 3 questions here that first one is Canada losing and just thoughts on that.
Can't really say I was too surprised that Canada lost. I think there was a bit of a worried feeling going to that Czechia game. Think about it.
You thought that, I'll back him up, that he said several times before that he just didn't think Canada was that good this year.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was more, well, actually, like, going to that game, it was kind of more a product of, like, I think you need to look out for Czechia, because Czechia I watched Czechia play in the Group B stage at Lunenburg, so I'm playing almost every game, and they have some really good players on their team. And they took USA to overtime, right? They lost to Slovakia at first, but then, I don't know. It shouldn't be, based off of how they played against the U.S., I was like, I think Canada might be in trouble here. Canada just could not get into a rhythm at all. Corin, we were discussing it too. Like, you can't wait until the second period of the quarterfinals to finally start clicking as a team.
Which I think that was the part, like, I think we're both gutted for the guys. Like, we
Such beauties.
We've talked to a bunch of them, and they're really great guys, and like it sucks. Like they feel like it's the worst thing in the world right now, and like it's not. You'll be
okay.
fine.
You'll be okay.
And like as much as like funny enough, I was definitely higher on them than you in terms of like, and I don't mean that in a way that you thought.
I thought it was still a good team. I just thought
yeah,
relatively speaking, compared to past years and compared to the other teams in the tournament.
Yeah.
Like the U.S., didn't think Canada was overly intimidating of a team.
Yeah, which I think partially, like, in my mind, I think there is a gold medal roster in there somewhere, but I don't think they found the right lines, if that makes sense. And, like, even, obviously, I think they left some skill at home, too, which will raise some question marks. But
Yep.
I just think... I don't think they had the right mix-up of guys playing, and I think some of the time on ice is probably going to get questioned quite a bit when you look back and, like, what a big force Matthew Wood was in that last game and how little he played throughout the tournament. I thought we both talked about Braden Yager. I thought was, like, really
good.
I thought he looked really good. I think he probably could have played a bit more up the lineup.
Geeks with that monster hit.
But even for Geeks, like, I think mixing up some of the lines more, and I would have loved to see. I genuinely still believe, and this might be a crazy thing to say, I think right now Celebrini was the best player in this tournament. Which
I don't think it's that crazy of a thing to say. Although a lot of players on the U.S. have looked really good.
of course, which I think is where the questions come for that. But like it's a bummer. It's a terrible way to lose. Like just such a fluky goal to go in there at the end. It's obviously cool for Czechia. I feel like every team in this tournament has some kind of desire to knock Canada off at some point, and because obviously they've been so successful in it. So they got to be over the moon, and there's some great players on that team. So I'm sure Z's happy to see Kulik doing well.
Yeah, he looks great. That guy can rip it.
Yeah.
That guy has an unbelievable shot. And I just think, Czechia's dangerous. Like, they could really beat anyone. We saw it last year, too.
Yeah, like going up against Sweden, like Sweden has some great players, but I don't think they've really clicked offensively yet, which, again, when I say that, I don't think they have it. Like, they don't have Celebrini or like really like Lecker-Mackey's been their best offensive player, and I don't know if he's like as dynamic as some of the players that really have taken over this tournament in the past. And like, again, when you look at how dominant some of the U.S. guys have been.
So now let's talk about who we think is going to win the tournament. I think that's a good segue.
Yeah, because I think we both think the same thing. Like USA's roster is stacked.
And I feel like we've said it from the beginning. It's like this is USA's tournament to lose. Like I've said a couple times, and like I know we said they don't necessarily have like a Cooley or a Matthews or like one of those.
They're
like,
more of a well-rounded team.
They're so well-rounded. Like we could look back at this team and be like, look at how many NHL players were on this USA team.
Yeah, it's just so deep.
It's I think this could be like a historically good team.
The other thing that like again, I just think is something that they've had a massive advantage for in this tournament. That I think like to have Perreault, Smith, and Leonard be able to play like these guys have played on the same line, not just like they played together up through U18s, whatever. They played on the same line for the U.S. national team draft program, for U18s. Now they played together at Boston College, now they're playing together at the World Juniors. It's so unreal. It actually kind of pisses me off that someone didn't trade up and draft all three of them in the NHL.
Yeah,
I feel like they just should play together forever.
Except they went. Where'd they go? They went 4, 8, and 25. And the funny thing is that like Perreault is looking like he definitely should have been a top 10 pick in that draft.
Yeah, which if you look at his numbers,
so good.
He absolutely should have been.
Like he's a beauty too. We've had the chance to chat with him a little. They're all great. That the whole USA team they are beauties. Like great personalities. They're really, USA Hockey really protects the players big time. So like. Wish we could show maybe some more access to certain things, but it is what it is. And
USA Hockey's not interested in growing the game. But
well, yeah. But you know what? And I got to say too, I don't know if we're allowed to say this, but I would really like to see USA win. Obviously, Rutgers on the team. I think it'd be great. Sweden has actually got 3 or a couple Jets as well on their team, or 2 or 3. Anyways, but.
I'm torn. Like I like the USA team. Though I will say, like obviously, it's always cool to see a home team win. Which so I personally
look out for Finland too, though, man. They could beat Sweden. They'd have to play the States.
Yeah, so they'd have to beat the States.
Czechia could beat Sweden, man. Sweden always finds a way to blow it in like the next stage of games.
I'm just saying, in what I want, my dream matchup is U.S. Sweden in the final. So
hopefully,
that would be pretty electric. So
that's kind of been the thought process from the start. Like these are like 2 stacked rosters with probably a lot of players who aren't far away from being NHLers.
Yeah. And does the home crowd kind of maybe give Sweden that extra boost in a gold medal game where it gives a really good matchup? Because I do think we both agree that U.S. is on paper the better team.
And the question is, has USA really been tested as much as a team like Sweden?
And which even now, like Finland has looked better lately, but genuinely they could pump Finland.
They could pump Finland.
Like, look at what they did to Slovakia. Slovakia looked pretty good all tournament, and like Finland obviously scraped one out against them, but USA beat them like, what was it, 9-2?
10-2, I think.
10-2.
I would love to see Lane Hudson win. Lane Hudson is going to be an absolute star at the next level quickly, I think. He's that good. He's so you can just see sometimes when he's on the ice, and this is a very good USA team. You're like, Lane is just better than like everyone else on the ice when he's playing. So when he's playing with like NHL skill too, it's going to be nuts.
The one thing I will say though is that, and we've both talked about him a bunch, is that Steve Boehm is like, it's crazy because he's the only draft eligible player on the States team. He, I think going into the year was ranked he was ranked below several American defensemen in the upcoming draft, and I think like his stock has got to be skyrocketing.
Always.
Because not only has he made this team, he's played a lot of minutes. Like they clearly trust him a lot, and he's looked good. So.
He's been their second best defenseman.
Yeah.
He has been fantastic.
And I think there's I'm not like Lane Hudson's been great, but I just I think you could even throw it out there that there's a discussion to say that he's been the best.
He is so smooth. He actually looks like John Carlson a little, I think, on the ice. He plays a very similar game, in my opinion. And man, he's so skilled. He leads the NCAA in points for defensemen, and he hasn't even been drafted yet.
Yeah.
He is going to be a steal for whoever gets him if he falls outside the top 10, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because, I think in the early draft rankings, he was normally around, 20th, or below.
You know who could really use him?
The Winnipeg Jets?
Your Winnipeg Jets. Except we might end up drafting 32nd overall at this rate. Unless we cough up our first-round pick, which we've done before.
I was going to say, for me, Team Germany was very nice to us. We had this guy, Luca, which so unlucky. He broke his hand or something in the first...
In the win against Finland.
In the win against Finland, that's what it was.
At least you got to be part of it, though.
Exactly. To be part of that huge win was probably awesome. But, we met them pretty early where he came up on the street and said hi, and, we talked for a bit. And then they were so nice to us throughout the tournament where,
Lutz, our boy Lutz.
Yeah. Yeah, Julian Lutz was also our guy because, they let us into the locker room after. And, it's funny because, Luca pointed this out when he texted us, but, you can't really tell. You probably just assume he's speaking German, but they let us into the locker room after they beat Finland, and they're just pumped because they were 25 or they were 0-25 against Finland in the history of their World Junior competition. So they got their first win against them, and then from there, they just went nuts. And Julian comes in, just runs at me and goes, "Right, Corwin!"
Yeah.
And then
that was a great scene.
Yeah,
that was a highlight.
It was funny. And I just love that song now. The one they're singing. I don't know what it is, but it's just a fun song. And that's probably my favorite behind the scenes moment. I think.
Yeah, there have been a lot. We've been very fortunate. Actually, we were told to not do it anymore, but Corin and I were between the benches for several games, and that was realistically that was the highlight.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Man, we're looking at these guys. They're talking so much smack to each other across the benches. We're at ice level, just watching all these future NHL players just battling. Yeah.
And honestly, the other thing I'll say is just this isn't as much behind the scenes, but it's more just being in Sweden that I sometimes forget how for anybody watching, if you're not from Canada or the U.S., sometimes you can see it in the metrics, but you never really feel it until you're in a place like this and you have a lot of people coming up and being "Oh, hey, what's up? Can we get a picture? I love your content," and it's surprising. It's pretty
in Sweden.
Yeah, that's
cool.
it's so cool. It's because you would never think that someone from another country watches your stuff, and especially somewhere where I can't believe how perfect everybody's English is here. Everybody speaks English so well. It's insane. But the
people are so nice here.
But obviously
so good looking.
But their primary language is not English, and to have all these people from a country that is not normally not primarily speaking English to still love our content so much and stuff is crazy to see. So it's really appreciated, and I think you appreciate it even more when you get to meet some of the people out here.
For sure. And if you want a real last behind the scenes story, one crazy one, I'm pretty sure I got electrocuted this morning. I'm actually I'm fully serious. It was very scary, and I don't know. The top of my index finger is still kind of buzzing. Yeah. So Gothenburg has been pretty sick.
Back to you.
See you next week.